Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. If you're new here, welcome. If you're a returning fan, so glad to see you. Got Lauren King with me today, and we're going to talk about some issues she had in finding a trainer in her area and how she dealt with that. And I know a lot of people out there are worried about finding a trainer not in your area, working with them virtually. A lot of people feel like it may not be something they would like to do, and it's kind of intimidating to some people. So, Lauren, how are you?
Good.
All right,
Um,
tell everybody a little about yourself.
my name is Lauren King. I own Project Canine, which is a grooming salon in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Formerly used to teach private lessons in people's homes for like basic obedience and pet stuff. Formerly worked for a big box corporate store. Formerly worked for you teaching puppy beginner intermediate classes.
Yep.
And also former puppy raiser for a local guide dog organization.
Yeah.
That was fun. I also compete in AKC rallying and obedience with my own dogs, as well as dabbling in other sports occasionally.
One thing, that yes, you've worked with me and we've worked together, so it's not like we don't know each other. But one thing I do want our viewers or listeners to know is that we don't live super local to one another. So it's a bit of a trek for you to work with me or me to come work with you. And so that has necessitated either finding someone closer to you in your area or finding a different way. So, when you were looking for a trainer in your area, what were some of the problems you ran across?
Well, I'm in a dog sport desert. There's not a local obedience training club. There's not a local agility training club. There's nobody doing scent work. There's not even conformation handling classes. There's a service dog trainer, but there's nobody doing competition level stuff. I know what I'm doing for the pet level things. I want to work on things like drop on recall or directed jumping. I want to work on long downs in a group setting. And there's nobody here really doing that. Not in a group class anyway. I don't know of any private trainers doing it either. So I used to have access to an air conditioned space with matting and other handlers that were working with their dogs at a similar level. So, like, you could be practicing an off lead heel, and just a few feet away, somebody else is throwing a dumbbell for their dog. And that's been really difficult to duplicate. There's just really not any group classes around me doing that.
And I want
So, I
to
did start working.
I'm sorry, I want to
Go
interrupt
ahead.
real quick and tell listeners or viewers that a drop on recall is when you call the dog, come when called, and you say, come, and part way, you want them to stop and lay down. You would say down, and the dog lays down, and then you call them again. So literally, it's a drop on a come when called recall. And directed jumping is where they have two jumps and they're like facing you and the jumps are here. And the judge will say, I want you to cue your dog for the left one or for the right one. And you have to do that. So directed jumping is literally directing a dog over a jump the
To
direction
which
you want
jump?
them to go.
Mhm.
Yeah, and they also have the option of coming straight forward and not taking a jump, which is absolutely one of the pitfalls in that you have to teach them not to come straight forward and instead go over the jump that you ask them to because there's nothing preventing them from choosing not to jump. So that's part of the skill and training that is that the dog has many other options,
Mhm. And other distractions, and a judge is in the ring too. You send your dog to jump, and nothing's stopping that dog from going to say hi to the judge
right?
or
Exactly.
exiting the ring. Yeah, but it's not just that. There's nobody really local to me that I could trust that knows enough about dogs to pretend to be the judge. I need them to walk near me with a clipboard and watch, but not really talk. maybe give a few directions, but in order for somebody to know how to do that, they really need to have competed at some point. And there's nobody. So there's a local trainer that does have certifications and does work with service dogs. But as far as I can see looking online, she hasn't done rally or obedience or anything yet. So she might be able to help me in being the judge, but she wouldn't be able to help me really train those things, those more advanced skills that I haven't done yet, because she hasn't done them. As far as I can see, she hasn't done them. While it might be nice to get a fresh perspective, if you're going to pay a trainer, you would really like someone who's had more experience than you. And so that's what I ran into. There's several local trainers that are very good. They're very good at what they do, but they're not doing what I need them to be doing.
Yeah. And to be
So,
clear, I'm pretty sure you're talking about
yeah,
Rayanne.
I was talking about Rayanne, and even Bianca is doing great at teaching puppy beginner and even like pet therapy, CGC level stuff and behaviors. And that's great. That's awesome. That's not quite what I need.
Yeah, because you just have a different focus. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think if I'm hearing you correctly, what you're trying to say is that even though there are great trainers in your area, if they're not familiar with the niche or that area of
Mm-hmm.
training, like training isn't complete training across the board. You have to understand the goal in order to train the dog to do that. And while there are great trainers, if they understood the goal, they could absolutely help you. But since they don't know anything about the goal and what the rules are and all that, you almost have difficulty training with them because their focus is not yours.
Right. So that led me to jumping online and jumping on YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, all the places. I have done a Fenzi class before, but what happened anytime I took a Fenzi class is if you miss a lesson, the class is moving on, whether you worked on it or not that week.
Right.
And you'll find dogs at all different levels in those classes. And so I went up doing, go ahead,
Sorry to interrupt you. So Fenzi, that's Denise Fenzi's online,
yeah,
and I can put that in the link.
Denise Fenzi Dog Sport Academy, I believe is what it's called. FDSA.
Yeah, yeah. And so I'll put that link for you guys in the video description. But did you also find when you were looking, now you had some experience training, so I'm pretty sure you wouldn't have had as much trouble. But how many conflicting advice did you see? Like one would say, train it this way, the other one would be like, you don't want to do that because, I don't know, how did you,
So
what
it's
was
it's
your
been a
main,
while since I've done
uh,
a Fenzi class. I don't really remember.
when you were choosing, how did you decide to even look at Fenzi? How did you decide which trainer virtually that you wanted to follow? Because there are so many different ones out there. What was your criteria that you were looking for in finding a trainer that you wanted to do it their way?
The main thing I did was look at the outline of the class. The
Course curriculum, syllabus,
Jesus.
outline.
Syllabus. The word is syllabus.
Yes. Okay.
I would look at the course syllabus, right? See which trainer was covering the topics I really wanted to cover. And I would also make sure that I was checking like what the prerequisites were for that class, what my dog needed to know going in. And if I'm looking at the prereqs and my dog doesn't know any of that stuff, then I'm not joining that class. We're going to be lost the whole time, or I'm going to be playing catch up. If my dog and I know how to do most everything, and maybe there's one or two things that I know I can train really quickly on the fly, I might have signed up for that class. But as far as which trainer was which, I didn't know them well enough to make a decision at that time. It was really about what course they were teaching.
So, for the average person out there
But
who's looking for a trainer or looking for a course, how did you decide that information instead of what you didn't choose? What were your criteria? How did you choose a trainer online, because clearly you're not there to see how they're actually doing it. And you're
Hmm.
also, you can't always go on recommendations or anything like that, because there are a good number of people who will get their friends to do recommendations or things like that on the internet.
Reviews,
So,
right.
yeah, so how did you weed through that? How did you weed through that and decide, hey, these people look like the ones I want to go with?
So a lot of these trainers will have their own socials. They'll have their own TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, or whatever, and they'll have free content out there. And just like you made an episode or two on what does the dog say? I was looking for somebody whose dogs were working at a high level and seemed happy to do it, and preferably positive reinforcement. It, especially when you're talking about dog sports, we have to remember that dog sports are for fun. That's not like a life or death skill that my dog do rally or obedience. So I want my dog to be having fun doing it. So looking at the videos and looking at the dog's body language and looking at how they're working with the dog in their free content made it a lot easier to decide who I wanted to work with for real, to pay money to and work with. And I chose to work with Laura Waudby. That's tandemdogsports.com. And she's got a few different tier levels of working with her. I'm taking a break right now. I got a little burned out and life stuff was getting a little bit big, but it's been great. It's been great. I really loved, because I was doing private lessons, I really loved that we were working at my pace. So if my dog was struggling with something specific, then we could slow down and work on that thing. Or if we're moving through something quicker, we move it through it quicker. It's really determined by you and your dog and how much you're practicing or what you and your dog are struggling with.
And I
There
know
are cons.
when I have done, I know what my experience has been doing virtual work, especially private lessons for various things. What would you
Mhm.
say? A lot of people are wondering, but how do you do that when she's not there to see the dog? How do you decide when your dog's ready to move on, or if there is a problem? How do you do
Mhm.
that?
What we were doing was sending short YouTube videos. I would take a video. I was editing it down on CapCut, but you absolutely don't have to do that. You could just literally press record, work with your dog for just a minute, a few reps, and then send it. And she was really good at sending you a timestamp. At this time, you did this thing when you should have been doing this thing. And she would have supportive videos back to show you what it was that you were working on. She was very good at pointing out little minute things that I was doing or that Fathom was doing, and able to relay that information back to me in a way that made sense with video examples and with timestamps. Um, and you don't have to be an expert video editor. I got very good at editing videos because of it. If you don't know me, I'm somebody who, once I start something, I like really dive deep. I was getting to where I was cutting out. I'd hand the dog the treat and then I would cut to the next rep, and there was no downtime with me getting another treat or setting up something else. Because if I need to get my video down to 2 minutes, I'm gonna maximize what I can do in those two
Right?
minutes.
And of course, not
Um,
all, from what I understand, and at least for me too, not all trainers require that they be 2 minutes or under. So you definitely don't have
right.
to be great at video editing, but you do have to video. I know for clients that I'm working with, they do need a video because I can't see what their dog is doing. And that's the one thing that I tell people, you have got to get over what you look like on camera. None of us likes how we
Oh
look.
yeah. Oh yeah. No, poor Laura has seen me in my pajamas. She's seen me working with my dog in my driveway in the rain. It's yeah. No, we get over that real quick. The other thing people may not realize is that when you upload a video to YouTube, you can change the settings on that to where the only person who can view it is the person you shared the link to. Just because you upload a video to YouTube does not mean that it's available for anybody public to see. So, if that makes anybody feel any better about uploading to YouTube, there are settings that are very easy to change.
And I'm very sure
Um,
that does help some people feel more comfortable, because when you're talking about uploading stuff to social media, that's something you don't want someone to see, is you working in your driveway in your pajamas or something like that. That's not something that
Yeah.
the whole world to see. And I know for me, some trainers too, I have a Google Drive that someone could actually share their stuff with a Google Drive too, and not put it on social media, because I have had people that are like, I don't like that.
That's certainly another way to do it. I don't know all the different ways.
Yeah.
I only know what I have experience with. There is still a downside to virtual, right? The level I'm wanting to compete at, I need my dog to do these things while somebody in the next ring is doing their thing. And I don't feel like I'm getting that. There's always going to the pet store, going to pet friendly hardware stores and all. It's just not quite the same because it's not like I'm going to bring my jumps to the hardware store. I can work on
It's like,
healing.
what do you think it's
Yeah.
like for the average person trying to learn to teach their dog to walk on a loose leash, or to do sit down, come, stay, leave it? Do you you're trying to replicate like a show situation, and that is
Hmm.
very, very difficult to do. But most people aren't wanting to show. So for them, if they
Hmm.
don't have the kind of trainer in their area that they want to work with, and they choose to reach out to a trainer who offers virtual options, how do you think that would how do you think, could they be successful, or would it be one of those things where it's really hard for them because the trainer's not right there? What do you think?
Honestly, I think if you're working on, say, door dashing, that might even be better than going to a training facility because you're at your own door, right? They can see what's happening and what your distraction levels are like at your own door, almost like being in your home in an in home private lesson. You're not in your own home working around another dog playing fetch 30 yards away
Right.
or barking in a kennel as you pass. That's a very valid thing. I think that a lot of your pet behaviors you could work on virtually and have great success with.
And so, like,
As far,
the trainer you're working with, albeit you're working on competition stuff, and again,
Mhm.
replicating that environment, that downside for you may not exist for another trainer who, or another person who is learning to control their dog in a normal pet family type setting. But I do want to be clear that the individual you're working with, we're in Mississippi and she's in Minnesota, correct? Is she in
Yeah,
Minnesota?
I think so.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Minnesota, Missouri, something like that.
Minnesota. Yeah, not Missouri, it's
Okay.
Minnesota. There's definitely no option there for going to her for private lessons. I guess there is, but that's a long way to drive.
I can make it happen.
Yeah,
Don't put it past me.
right.
Don't put
Exactly.
it past dog sport people to drive crazy distances
We
to
do.
get the dog they want or to see the trainer they want. But your average pet owner is not going to be doing that, no.
Right.
Unless they're like celebrity status.
Right. Unless they have more money than I do. A lot more, and
Right.
time. It takes time to drive to all that. If you have 30 minutes to sit down and have a lesson, or an hour lesson on a computer, or driving 3 hours one way or an hour each way, even to see a trainer, it actually is more time effective than actually going in person. And so,
Mm-hmm.
like, I really wanted your, because I know you have very recently been doing virtual lessons with a trainer, and not, so that's why I really wanted to get your input and how you felt about it, because in today's time, we're getting into a time where some of the best training you can get is not local.
Also, want to point out while I'm thinking about it that virtual means that you're going to be putting in the work. Cannot just pay money to the trainer and then expect them to get your dog trained. You have to understand that just like a gym membership or having a personal trainer, you can't just pay money and all your problems be solved. The work you get out is going to be equivalent to the work you put in.
Hmm.
Everybody needs to be a little bit realistic about that. like I said, I'm taking a break from working with my virtual trainer at the moment, but the reality is that I was uploading probably up 6 to 8 videos a week.
Yeah, that's a
In
lot.
community. It is. I think the plan I was on, I was able to do 2 2-minute videos a day.
Oh, that's a lot.
But that's not feasible for my life. I can't quite upload that many. I was probably getting 6 to 8 videos to maximize what I could do.
Oh, yeah, for the money. And the other thing is,
Yes.
people don't realize for this short amount of time that we have video, like with the content that I'm creating, you see a 30-minute video, but you don't know editing and finding the stuff. It takes hours to get
The
30
45
minutes.
minutes we spent getting this working today.
Technology, you gotta love technology. If you had someone ask you which would be better in your opinion to do if they don't have someone exactly in their area, would you say virtual would be better, or like a board and train where you take the dog, you drop them off, and you get them back? What's your take on that?
There's very few circumstances where I would prefer board and train. In fact, I'm struggling to think of any at this moment. If you are able to work with a trainer virtually or private lessons or group classes, I would far prefer that. Board and trains, you don't know what's going on with your dog, and also the knowledge transfer isn't there, right? Like they may have taught your dog how to wait at the door instead of door dashing, but then the first time that goes wrong, if you did a board and train, you may not know how to troubleshoot that. Trainers will tell you that you can reach out to them if you have any problems, but if you were the one putting in the work from the get-go, then you would already know what to do. You wouldn't need to, shoot an email to this trainer or phone call and then wait for them to respond, and then 3 days till we get a solution, and may need to go back for a minute anyway. If you put
Right.
in the work from the get go, you know what to do. You don't.
At every stage, you knew.
Mm-hmm. At every stage, whether it's door dashing or stays or walking on leash nicely, you remember what the trainer told you because you put in the work and you did it yourself.
Right.
The other thing is that even if you had a great board and train trainer who was super trustworthy and did everything just exactly right, if you don't know what you're doing, that training will fall apart over time. To
Yes,
what
and that
level?
that brings to the point that I was going to say is that consistency is everything. And so some people, and we're not going to get into this whole discussion, but there is clearly two sides of the fence. There is the mostly positive motivation people and the people that are like, we don't care about that. And so with that, it doesn't matter which one you choose, other than the welfare of your dog, of course. But if you're not consistent, neither of them is going to be like fail.
Foolproof, right? Or
Or yeah,
100% effective.
right,
The most important thing is that you're consistent, regardless what your training method is, that you are consistent. That's the most important thing.
right. Here's another question for you. If when you were looking at trainers, back on that topic, did you look for credentials? How did you know what they knew to know whether or not it's going to get you? Because you have specific goals, right? And in order to be able to take you from where you are to where you want to go for dog sport training, do these people need to be necessarily credentialed? No.
Normally, I would say look at credentials. I have no idea what her credentials are, but the proof is in the pudding. I know what I've seen her doing, and I know what I know about dog training. If I did not know what I know about dog training, then my answer would be to look at credentials so that you know what they know. I would not want to just trust that they knew what they were talking about. That's a privileged stance to be in, to be able to know enough about a subject that you can just watch some videos of the person working and know that they know what they're doing. That's not everybody, so I would definitely look for certifications, and there's several, right? There's IAABC, I'm going to butcher this one, the CDTP. Okay, I know what it is when I see it, okay? The Certification Council
CCPDT,
of Pet.
yeah, CCPDT. There's Karen Pryor Academy, KPA,
Mm-hmm.
Cat Academy, the Victoria Stilwell things. So there's a lot of good sources out there, and
One second. One second. Tiny human. I will open this cookie, and then I need you to close the door. Capiche? You are a tiny human. I open the cookie. Go, close the door behind you. Well, I don't want privacy because I'm recording a video, and they need to hear me talking, not your tiny voice. Ugh. Close the door behind you. You have a big voice? Okay. Thank you. Love you.
I love that kid.
I want to just ask the question again. I don't know.
If you don't know, you were coming at it from a place of a foundation knowledge to begin with. You knew about training, you knew what you were looking at, and you knew what goals you
Mm-hmm.
wanted to go. And that can be so different with the average person, general public. They don't have that base knowledge. So, in that instance, what exactly would you look for or tell them to look for?
I would look for certifications, specifically like the IAABC, or you said earlier the Karen Pryor Academy. Those are not technically required to be a good dog trainer or to know what you're talking about. But if you are coming from a place where you don't know what you don't know, then those certifications can help give you some confidence that the trainer that you're working with has proved their knowledge to some degree to a person other than themselves, an unbiased party, um, and not just editing short videos on social media to look good. I do think that they're a safeguard for the public. Keep you from getting scammed, keep you from paying a bunch of money to a trainer who knows a very limited amount. Um,
Yeah, and the thing is about these organizations, to my knowledge, they all require continuing education so that the person, they are supposed to keep learning. And the worst thing about a trainer is when they think they know it all and they don't feel like there is any new information that would help them do what they do. But continuing education, if they require continuing education, that's very important. And to me, they sign a code of ethics, and the average trainer out there that's uncredentialed, it's not that they're not ethical, but they haven't signed anything saying that they would continue their education, that they would be ethical. And I guess the thing with that is you also have no recourses if the individual is not ethical. But
mhm,
you do have some resources if they're credentialed and they're not ethical. To my knowledge, every one of those organizations, you can file an ethics complaint and there will be some repercussions. I'm not going to go as far as to say that if someone isn't certified or if they don't have credentials, they're not a good trainer. To me, and you can tell me how you feel about this, but to me, it's a starting place. It lets you know from the very beginning what they know.
Yeah, not being credentialed, I do understand because it is a bit time consuming. You would have to find a testing center. It's not exactly a cheap process, but having the certifications does show a certain amount of dedication to the craft and dedication to the betterment of trainers in general. Because legally in the US, you do not have to hold any certification. You don't have to prove your ability to be a dog trainer, unlike your hairdresser or um, even your nail tech. But they can do some serious damage if they don't know what they're doing.
Oh, yes.
Certainly, those certifications are a good baseline to look for, especially for pet dog trainers. And when I say pet dog trainers, I mean sit down, stay, wait at the door, door dashing, counter
Right.
surfing, pulling on leash
Fighting,
for
chewing stuff
certain.
up. Just the average person, though, who is looking for a good trainer and maybe they live in a rural area, what would you say? What would the requirements be? I know good internet service is certainly one.
A weighted video, just an iPhone or whatever. It'd be helpful to have a tripod, but there's so many times where I just literally prop my phone on a flower pot or on the bookshelf nearby because hunting down my tripod is too big of a pain at that moment. Tripods are like $20 on Amazon and adjustable height and all that stuff. Good internet, even if you don't have somebody to send it to, just watching your own videos can be helpful.
Right. That's it's so doable for people. And I feel
Mm.
like I've had success with individuals. What I find the problem to be is they don't stick with it. And I don't know. At first, I thought maybe it's because they are doing it virtually and it's so easy to be like, I'll get around to that. But then the flip side was when we were teaching in person classes, and I've talked to other trainers too, and I know you experienced it. People will still not
Mm.
do what they were supposed to do and will not
No.
stick with it even in person. So, to me, as an instructor, I did not find that it was one way or the other any better in person versus
So
virtual.
yeah, so that's going to be dependent on the person taking the class or doing the lessons. When I was teaching group classes, that I'd have 6 people show up to week 1 of their puppy class, and then on week 2 I'd have 4, and then on week 3 I might still have 4, but by week 4 we were down to 2 or 3, and wouldn't reach out, they wouldn't try to reschedule, and then they'd come to week 5 and be behind, or we'd just never hear from them again. I like to relate this back to gym memberships because I feel like everybody has some experience with that. If you sign up for a brand new gym and you go for 1 week, you're not going to get the same work out of it that somebody that's doing it 3 to 5 times a week regularly for
Right?
6 months or more, right? Like you're not going to get that same result.
I saw a meme the other
And
day and it made me laugh, and it's like on point. It wasn't a meme, it was a short. And she said, I got a gym membership to get in shape and to lose some weight, get toned. And she's like, I've had it for 2 months and it has not done me a bit of good. Tomorrow, I'm going to go down there and talk to those people and find out what's going on.
yeah, you have to go, right? And you have to actually put in the work, not just go and tune out. That's not the same thing. And also, just since we're talking about people not putting in the work, there was also times when I taught in-person group classes where I had one client come in and they were late, they missed the intro, they missed what they were working on, and then they came in, they plopped down in the chair, and they pulled out their phone and were on the phone was talking. And so now it's time to practice what I just showed you, and you have no idea what I'm talking about. And like, we're all adults, right? I'm not going to be like, all right, little Susie, put your phone away. We're going to take it away. I'm not a kindergarten teacher. This is, you paid for this class. You get out of it what you want. And if you are not here to pay attention, then I can't make you. I do my best to be engaging,
Yeah,
but I can't make you put in the work. I can't make you pay attention. I can't, I can help you to retain the info all you want, all I can, but there's limits to what I'm able to do. And with anything in life, you're not going to get any better at it. Your dog's not going to get any better at it if you don't put in the work.
that's true.
And there's no substitute for that work.
No, there's not. There absolutely is not. And that's the problem when people send their dogs off. You're asking somebody to do the work, but there's never any substitute for your participation in this and your dedication. That's a problem.
And I do want to say that I used to do board and trains. And again, back to putting in the work, part of my board and train package was that I kept the dog for X amount of time. And then in your package was included private lessons to follow up after so that I can help you transfer what we did with the dog. They wouldn't schedule them. I'd never hear from them again. I'd be like, okay, reach out to me in 2 weeks. Like, go home, see what I showed you, try to implement it, schedule with me for about 2 weeks from now so that you have had time to work on these things and that you are prepared with questions.
They don't call, do
And I can,
they?
no, never.
And
Not,
people do not realize that as a trainer, that sucks the life out of you.
it does.
It contributes a great deal to burnout, to it contributes so much. And people don't realize, they think, yeah, I should be doing better. But they don't realize that their lack of participation isn't all about them and their dog. It also affects the instructor in that it sucks the life out of them. It's just so discouraging when you're imparting knowledge and you're giving it your all, and then you have people just taking that for granted. It's very difficult.
It is. And even things like, even if it's not training related, just being irresponsible with the dog altogether.
Mm.
I had a client who could have lost their dog because just a few days after their board and train session, they were driving with the dog in the back of the truck, untethered, unrestrained, not in a kennel or anything, and he jumped out. And I'm like, I just worked so hard with that. You almost lost him being irresponsible.
You become invested. That's the thing. You
Hmm.
become invested, and it's hard when they
Like,
aren't.
I wish you wouldn't have even told me. Honestly, I didn't need it. It didn't do me any good to know that because it's hard. It's you get invested.
I know for me too that I get invested in the dog and the family. A lot of clients who hang around a little bit and take more than one class, we end up being friends because literally you
Mhm.
give of yourself that much, and it's just really, really hard when people don't meet you halfway.
Yeah.
So, Lauren, thanks for having this discussion with me today. I know sometimes I do a lot of content, but sometimes it's just good to get another trainer's point of view and to help share with other people. Especially, I'm the one that gives the virtual lessons, but it helps to hear from somebody else's point of view, having taken virtual lessons from someone other than me too, how whether or not they could be successful at that and how it works and all that. I do appreciate you joining me today. I have information for your Facebook page is going to be linked, and I will have some of the other people that we have referred to in this video. I'll have those linked as well. So, Lauren?
Yeah, you can follow me on TikTok or on Instagram, Northgate Tollers. I'm sure Christy will link it. It's not really training content. There's a lot of videos of me working with Fathom and some with Birdie and maybe even some with Town sprinkled in here and there. But again, it's not really meant to be instructional unless you already know what you're looking at. It
Right.
might give you some ideas.
It's really fun to watch. She's cute. You're great with her, how you handle her, and through all of that. It is really fun to watch, though. So, absolutely, everybody. I'll put her links in the description. Check her out. And until next time, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you then.